The Forgotten Sea Theater was packed. Producers, directors, stars, and influencers filled the grand hall. The golden lights shone down from the ceiling like they were watching too. It was the premiere of a film that had taken 2 years to make, a film where Ana de Armas had played one of her most difficult roles. But she wasn't in the front row. She wasn't even in the middle. She sat quietly in the last row. No cameras turned in her direction. No one noticed her long coat or the way she pulled it tighter around her arms. She didn't wear a designer dress that night. Her heels were plain. Her makeup was soft. She looked more like a guest than the lead actress. Ana had been told her. Name was missing from the seating chart. She didn't complain. She simply smiled and walked to the back of the hall. As people greeted each other in the front rows with hugs, laughs, and flashing lights, Ana sat down alone. Then the doors opened. Again, Keanu Reeves entered, dressed in his usual simple black suit. No tie, no loud entrance. He moved with ease, as if the world wasn't watching. People cheered, some clapped, and many leaned in for photos. But Keanu didn't look at the crowd. His eyes scanned the room like he was searching for something or someone. He didn't stop in the front row. He walked down the side aisle. He passed the producers, past the award winners. He passed the empty front row seat marked with his name, and then he saw her. Ana didn't see him at first. She was too busy trying not to be seen. But when she looked up and caught his eyes, something shifted. Keanu walked over and leaned down. "May I sit here?" he asked in a soft voice only she could hear. Ana blinked. "But your seat's in the front." Keanu smiled. "Then it can stay empty." He sat beside her, in the last row. Without hesitation, for the next few moments, the cameras were confused. They didn't understand why the front seat was empty, why one of the biggest stars in the world wasn't where he was supposed to be. But for Keanu, it was exactly where he was needed. Ana's hand shook a little, not from nerves, but from being remembered, from being seen, not by the lights, not by the world, but by someone who mattered. She whispered, "Why did you come back here?" Keanu replied, "Because you shouldn't be back here alone." And in that moment, something happened. Not in the theater, but inside her. Her heart softened, her breath calmed. For the first time that evening, she didn't feel forgotten. He asked her how she was. She told him the truth. Ana said the last few weeks had been hard. Interviews had been canceled. Her name had been taken off posters. People said she was too serious, too quiet, not glamorous enough. She was asked to step aside during a photo shoot for the younger cast. And slowly her smile had grown quieter. Keanu listened to every word. Not once did he interrupt. Not once did he try to fix it. He just sat there, like a calm shore waiting for the storm to pass. Ana finally looked up and said, "I almost didn't come tonight." Keanu turned his head. "But you did, and that matters." She nodded. "I wanted to support the film." He leaned back, folded his arms, and said something that Ana would never forget. Sometimes the ones who carry the heaviest part of the story are asked to sit in the darkest part of the room. But that doesn't mean the light won't find them. Ana turned away, her eyes wet. But then she smiled. Because for the first time in weeks, she felt human again. Not for the applause, not for the role, but for the kindness. The lights dimmed. The film began. The crowd silenced. Keanu and Ana sat side by side in the last row, watching a film they had both fought for. But the story that mattered most was happening off-screen, and it had only just begun. The spotlight behind the curtain, the film ended. The audience stood in loud applause. It's the kind that filled the hall like a storm. Some clapped out of habit. Others clapped because the film had truly touched them. Keanu didn't move. Ana stood. Slowly beside him, her hands still folded. The crowd turned toward the stage. Flashes began again. Cameras focused on the director, the producers, and the co-stars who had been seated in the front. But not on her. Ana remained at the back, silent, out of sight, until Keanu spoke. He leaned closer and said, "Let's go. They need to see you." Ana shook her head gently. "No, I don't want to force myself up there." Keanu paused. "Then let me walk with you. Not to the stage, Just to the middle. Anna hesitated. But there was something in his voice. Not pressure, not pity, just presence. Together they stepped out. From the shadows they walked slowly toward the middle aisle. The room wasn't watching them, yet but someone saw. One of the young reporters from an online film blog noticed first. She nudged the person beside her and whispered, "Is that Keanu? Why is he at the back?" And then someone else looked. Cameras followed. Eyes turned. The sea of attention that had once been pointed forward now flowed backward. Anna looked down. Unsure, Keanu placed his hand gently on her shoulder, not to guide her, but to remind her she wasn't invisible. The director noticed. He leaned into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we forgot someone tonight. The woman who gave this film its heartbeat. The one who carried more than her scenes. Please, welcome Ana de Armas." The room paused. People turned fully now. A few clapped, then more. Then the room began to echo. Not just applause, but recognition. Ana stood frozen. Keanu whispered, "You don't have to go to the stage. Just accept it." Ana smiled for the first time that evening fully. Not because she was being praised, but because someone had helped her find her place again. She raised her hand gently, nodded to the crowd, and stood still as the applause settled over her like a warm blanket. After the event, in the quiet of the backstage hallway, she sat on a wooden bench near the exit. She took off her heels and let her feet rest. Keanu stood nearby, sipping tea someone had handed him. Anna looked at him and asked, "Why did you do it?" Keanu shrugged. "Because I've been in the last row too." She stared at him. "You," he nodded. "Not always in rooms like this, but in life. In moments where no one saw me, or cared, or remembered my name. I know what it feels like. I don't want anyone to sit there alone if I can help it." His words were not dramatic, just honest. Anna felt tears rising again, but they were different this time. Not pain, but release. A producer walked past and said, "Anna, we'll need you. Tomorrow, for the interviews?" Keanu turned his head. "She needs rest." Anna smiled. "It's okay," he replied, "only if you choose it." Not because they expect it. Anna looked at him. He was right. For too long she had followed the noise. Tonight, someone had walked with her through the silence as the night stretched. Anna and Keanu sat on that bench for almost an hour, talking about everything but the film. Childhood, books, memories, small moments that had no headlines. And that's when Anna told him something that made Keanu pause. There was a time, she said softly, when I wanted to quit. Not acting, but all of it. The pressure, the rejection, the feeling of never being enough. Keanu's hand rested beside hers on the bench. He didn't grab it. He didn't try to stop her. He just listened. "I used to think," she continued, "that if I disappeared, no one would notice." Keanu finally looked at her. "But you didn't." Anna wiped her cheek, "and that changes everything." She nodded slowly. "You're not here by accident. And you're not alone anymore." They sat in silence, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Like two strangers who had known each other in 1,000 lifetimes but finally met in this one. That night, Anna didn't go to the after-dash party, neither did Keanu. They walked together down the quiet street. No red carpet, no lights, just two people. One who had felt invisible, and one who had seen her anyway. The chair that wasn't there the next morning came softly, with sunlight slipping through Anna's curtains. For once, she didn't wake up with a knot in her stomach. She sat quietly on the edge of her bed, remembering the night before not. The applause, not the cameras, but the bench. And Keanu's voice, she checked her phone. No missed calls, no new scripts, just one message. It was from Keanu. Breakfast. No press, no noise, just eggs and peace. Anna smiled. She typed back, "Yes, I could use some peace." 2 hours later, they sat at a small corner cafe. No one recognized them. No one asked for photos. It felt like the world had slowed down just for them. Anna sipped her coffee. "I don't know how you do it. Stay kind in this business." Keanu looked out the window, then said, Because I remember what it's like to sit at a table and feel like you don't belong. Anna leaned in. You still feel that? He nodded. More than you think. They didn't speak like actors. They spoke like people. Two souls who had been bruised by the same wind but were still standing. There was no ego, just truth. After breakfast, Anna was supposed to attend a meeting with a director who had recently dropped her from a project. She wasn't sure why he suddenly wanted to see her again. Keanu saw the concern in her eyes. Do you want me to go with you? He asked. Anna shook her head. No, I need to face it, but thank you. He smiled gently. You've got this. She went to the studio alone. As she entered the meeting room, her heart tightened. The director sat at the far end of a long glass table. Two producers stood by the window, pretending to look at files. Anna walked in with quiet strength. There was only one chair left. It wasn't at the head, wasn't near the middle. It was off to the side. Again, she was being asked to sit away from the center. She paused, and then, for the first time in a long time, she did something bold. She walked over and pulled a chair from the wall, placed it near the center of the table, sat down. No one said a word, but they noticed the director raised his eyebrows. Anna looked at him calmly. You asked to see me? He cleared his throat. Yes, about the project. Made a mistake letting you go? The studio. They want to bring you back. Anna's eyes didn't light up. She waited, but he added quickly, you'll have to work with a new lead. We've changed the male character. We're thinking someone like Keanu Reeves. Anna blinked. Keanu. The director nodded. If he's interested, we've been trying to reach him. Anna gave a small smile. Maybe I can help with that. Outside the studio, Keanu was waiting. He leaned against his bike. Helmet in hand, Anna walked out and said, they want you, Keanu. Grinned, and what do you want? Anna paused. I want to be seen, not just cast, not just used. I want someone to look at me the way you did in that last row. Keanu nodded, double quotes. Then we do it your way, he said. Later that week, they met with the studio together. Keanu agreed only on one condition. Anna would be given equal billing, equal pay, and full creative voice over her role. There was silence in the room. One executive leaned in. That's unusual. Keanu smiled. So am I. And with that, the contract was rewritten. The story they were about to make wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about taking back the seat she had always deserved. Anna walked out of the building with the new script in hand. And for the first time in her career, her name was on the cover beside someone else's dot, and not because he gave her space, but because he believed she belonged there too. When silence speaks loud, rehearsals began the following Monday. It wasn't just another film. For Anna, it felt like redemption. For Keanu, it felt like a quiet promise to protect what the industry so often forgot. On the first day, Anna walked into the studio earlier than everyone else. She stood in the center of the empty set. Her fingers ran along the cold edge of the wooden table that would be used in a key scene. Everything was quiet except her thoughts. She wasn't afraid of the lines. She was afraid of being replaced again. The director stepped in, greeted her, and smiled warmly. But his eyes still held that trace of doubt, not because of her talent, but because the industry had taught people to question quiet voices. Keanu arrived a few minutes later, carrying 2 cups of tea. You looked like you needed one, he said, handing her the cup. Anna smiled, but said nothing. They rehearsed their first scene together, a moment between 2 people sitting in a cafe, saying everything without saying much at all. As the cameras rolled, Anna did something unexpected. She didn't follow the script word for word. Instead, she let silence fill the scene. Her eyes spoke. Her breath carried emotion. When the director called cut, the room was still. No one clapped. No one moved, because something real had just happened. Then the director said quietly, We're keeping that take. Anna looked at Keanu. He gave her a soft nod, as if to say, I saw it too, but not everyone was pleased. Later that day, one of the producers approached Anna and said, You might want to stick to the lines next time. We don't want to confuse the editors. Anna stood silent. Keanu heard. He walked over slowly, not interrupting, just listening. The producer turned to him and said, "We just need things to go smoother." Keanu replied, "She didn't make it messy. She made it honest." Well, there was an awkward pause. Anna could have stayed silent, but she didn't. "I won't break the script," she said. "But if the emotion is stronger than the words, I'll follow that truth." The producer didn't argue. He simply walked away that night. Anna sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through old photos. Moments from her earlier films where her face was blurred in group shots. Where she stood on the edge of red carpet. Photos where her name was in small font below 5 others. She closed her phone and breathed deeply. The next day, everything changed. During a major rehearsal, Anna was asked to deliver a monologue. It was long. It was intense. It was written with heavy emotions, but halfway through, her voice broke. Not from fear, but from something deeper. A memory surfaced of a time when she was 16, standing outside a casting office in Havana, being told, "You're too ordinary. You'll never make it to Hollywood." Those words returned like shadows. She stopped midline. The room waited. One of the assistants looked toward the director, ready to call cut. But Keanu raised his hand gently. "Don't." He walked onto the set, stood beside Anna and looked. "Are you okay?" he whispered. Anna nodded, her voice barely a breath. "Just remembering." Keanu looked at the director, let the camera roll. And then he did something no one expected. He sat on the floor beside her, said nothing, just stayed. And Anna somehow found her strength again. Not by restarting. Not by forcing the monologue, but by standing in silence. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked, but it was real, and the room filled with something even more powerful than applause, respect, after the scene. The crew gathered around her, one by one. They came not with praise, but with presence. A grip said softly that was the first time I saw someone mean every word. Makeup artist whispered, "Thank you for not hiding it." The director walked over, put his hand on her shoulder and said, "We'll rewrite the scene around what you just did." That was more than acting. And Keanu? He just smiled. Not because she had impressed them, but because she had finally stopped hiding herself. Anna walked off the set that evening with a quiet confidence in her step. It wasn't pride. It was peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop apologizing for who you are. The voice they tried to silence so weeks later, the studio arranged a press junket for the film. Dozens of journalists, back-to-back interviews, bright lights, rehearsed answers. The usual machine of Hollywood. Anna wasn't nervous this time. She wore a simple white blouse. No diamonds, no flashy shoes, just herself. She looked at her reflection before stepping into the interview room and whispered under her breath, "You belong here." Keanu arrived an hour later. He didn't need to be there yet, but he wanted to be near. He had a way of watching without hovering, supporting without speaking over. The interviews began at first. The questions were light. What was it like working together again? Who made the other laugh the most on set? Keanu let Anna answer first every time, when one reporter asked, "Keanu, do you think Anna is finally getting the recognition she deserves?" Keanu leaned forward slowly and said something that made the room pause. She always deserved it. The question is, why did it take the rest of us this long to see it? Anna looked down. Her eyes blinked slowly. Then came a different kind of question from a journalist who had once written a piece calling Anna forgettable. He smirked as he spoke. "Anna, some people still say you play it too safe, that you're not as daring as other actresses."
Any thoughts on that?
The room fell silent. The question wasn't curiosity. It was a trap. Anna felt her breath catch. Her past self might have smiled politely, avoided the question, and let it sting in silence. But not this time. She sat up straight and replied in a calm, steady voice. "Daring doesn't mean loud. Sometimes it means standing in rooms where people try to quiet you and speaking anyway. I've been called to safe because I don't shout for attention. But silence can be brave too." The room went quiet, and then Keanu added, "And sometimes Silence is the loudest strength in the room. The reporter didn't speak again. Later that day, Anna stepped outside for air. The sky was cloudy, but she felt light. Keanu joined her, hands in his pockets. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Anna smiled. "Like I didn't shrink?" He looked at her. "You didn't? You grew." She turned to him, "When you gave up that front seat for me, I thought you were just being kind." "I was," he said. "But now, I think maybe you were also showing me something." "What's that?" "That I could stand even when no one clapped. That I didn't need their permission." Keanu looked at her thoughtfully. "No one gave me a map in this world," he said. "I just walked the quiet roads until they led me to people who deserve to be seen." Anna nodded. Double quotes. "Thank you for seeing me." He smiled gently. "Thank you for letting me." That evening, Anna received an email. It was from the studio head. They wanted to invite her to the final premiere, and they had saved her a seat front row center. But this time, she didn't hesitate. She wrote back, "Thank you, I accept." But before closing the laptop, she added one more thing. "And please make sure there's a seat next to mine for someone who always chose the last row." When Keanu read the forwarded email, he laughed softly. He didn't need the spotlight. But the fact that she made space for him meant more than the light itself. The premiere was only days away, and the world was about to see a side of Anna it had ignored for too long, not because she shouted, but because she finally stopped whispering. The seat she made her own weeks passed. The film wrapped shooting earlier than expected, not because they rushed, but because every scene held something real, something deeper than performance. Anna had become more than just a lead. She had become the soul of the story, and people started noticing when the early edits were shown to internal studio teams. The feedback was immediate. They didn't say, "She's good." They said, "She carries it." Anna sat in a small screening room when the first full cut played. She watched herself on screen, not with vanity, not with fear, but with quiet gratitude, because this time, the girl who once sat in the back wasn't watching someone else shine. She was watching herself rise. Keanu sat beside her, just like he had that night in the theater weeks before. As the credits rolled, he turned to her and asked softly, "How do you feel?" Anna leaned back, her eyes glistening. "Scene," she whispered. Finally, the press tour was announced. Premiere dates were set. But something had changed this time. Anna's name was not hidden at the bottom of posters. It was placed beside. Ikun single quotes, equal font, equal billing, equal respect. The night of the world premiere arrived. Flashbulbs lit the evening sky like lightning. Celebrities stepped onto the red carpet in glittering gowns and expensive suits. But something was different. Anna arrived in a simple white dress. No diamonds, no entourage, just peace in her eyes. When the reporter shouted questions, she smiled kindly but didn't stop to pose, until one reporter shouted, "Anna, over here. We have a seat saved for you in the third row." Anna turned. She looked down the line of seats, rows filled with agents, critics, studio heads, but her eyes searched for one thing, and then she saw it. Keanu already seated in the last row, alone, waiting without thinking. Anna walked past the ropes, past the ushers, past the flashing cameras. She made her way down the aisle. When she reached him, he stood, "This seat taken?" she asked playfully. Keanu smiled. "I was saving it." "Just in case you remembered." Anna sat beside him, just like before. The crowd was confused. Cameras turned again, but the director understood, and he whispered to someone near him, "Let them be. This is their moment." The film began. The audience laughed, cried, and fell silent at all the right times. But the most powerful moment came after the final scene, when the screen faded to black and the audience stood for a standing ovation. Anna didn't move. She just sat still, breathing in the sound. And then a single spotlight appeared. Not on the stage, not on the director, but on the last wrote on her. The lighting director had done it on purpose, because even in the back, her presence was undeniable now. The audience turned, and for the first time in her life, Ana de Armas received a standing ovation while sitting in the seat she once thought she didn't deserve, but she had earned it, not because someone gave it to her, but because she walked toward it, one quiet step at a time. Keanu leaned toward her. "How does it feel now?" he asked. Ana turned to him with the softest smile. "It feels like I never needed their seat. I just needed to stop waiting for permission to sit in mine." Outside the theater, a young girl waited behind the barricade with her mother. She held a notebook, just like Ana once had. When Ana passed by, she stopped, took the notebook gently, and wrote something inside. The girl looked down and read the words, "You are not invisible. Even when no one claps. Even when they forget your name. You matter. Don't give up." Then, Ana hugged her and walked away. In that moment, the world didn't just witness a star, it witnessed a woman who no longer needed the front row, because she had become the light that reached all the way to the back.